Thank you very much for having me here in Norway. I'm very excited, really, to share the AirAsia story with all of you. What I'll do is to explain briefly, if I can forward this. Okay, a brief introduction of the group history. AirAsia is a pioneer of the LCC model in Asia, and we started in 2001, where we just had 2 aircraft. We bought over from an ailing airline called DRB Highcom, which Hilda just mentioned, and we grew to about 196 aircraft. And last year itself, we actually touched the 300 million mark passenger that we actually carried since we started as a low-cost carrier in 2001. So we started our operations in Malaysia, but then we decided to establish joint ventures in Thailand and Indonesia. We did that in 2004. We started our joint venture in Philippines in 2012, India in 2014, and recently we just had a license in Japan, and we hope to start our joint ventures operation in Japan by first half of this year, basically. So we fly point to point within the 4-hour radius. We also have a sister company called AirAsia X, and they concentrate mostly on long-haul flights, anything more than 4 hours, basically. So as you can see from here, we have a proven track record, and we have a lot of room for growth, basically. Unlike in Europe, we don't have open skies. So therefore, in order to be able to build that network, we had to establish joint ventures, not only in Thailand, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, basically. So we have 5 different markets that we're operating right now, and we own the maximum amount of shareholdings allowed by foreigners in each country. We really want this airline to be locally incorporated, really because we want them to be able to fly domestically and be able to take advantage of the bilateral rights from each country to other countries as well. So this is how we grow our network. We work together. We have several hubs in each of our operations. To date, we have 20 hubs in all the 5 markets that we have established our operations, basically. And AirAsia X, a sister company of ours, where we only own 13%, they operate from 3 different hubs also. So out of all these entities, only 3 are listed, which is AirAsia Berhad, Thai AirAsia, where we own 45% of Thai AirAsia, and also AirAsia X. To date, AirAsia has a total of 173 Airbus A320, as I mentioned, deployed across 20 hubs in Asia. 82 of those are in Malaysia, 45 in Thailand, 25 in Indonesia, 14 in Philippines, 6 in India, and 1 in Japan. AirAsia X, on the other hand, has 27 Airbus A330s, and they operate across 3 hubs in Malaysia, Thailand, and also in Indonesia. So we have a very extensive network that covers over 243 routes, out of which 85 are unique, which means we're the only airline that serves those routes. And we currently fly around 117 destinations in 23 countries. So you see, most investments are done. And what we're trying to do here is to build up the routes, linking up points, strengthening the hubs, basically, increase frequency, and also introduce new destinations into the network. Our first mover advantage has led us to become the largest LCC in Asia in terms of the number of passengers carried, in terms of seat capacity, and also the number of jet aircraft that we currently owned. So in 2014, the group carried 50 million passengers. And we are actually the largest airline in terms of LCC in Asia. We come in number 4 in comparison to all airlines, whether they are in full service or in low-cost carrier. So we come in number 4 after all the Chinese carriers, such as, like you see in this graph, after China Southern, after China Eastern, and Air China. We actually beat ANA, We carry more passengers than Cathay Pacific and Singapore Airlines or so. Why we're able to do that? Because we're very strict about meeting the 25 minutes turnaround. And we also utilize the aircraft at the best as we could. Currently, the utilization of aircraft is about 12.5 hours a day. And basically, we try to fit in as many sectors as we can in order to actually utilize the aircraft as efficient as we could. So by having 6 sectors a day per aircraft, you're actually looking at 6 sets of passengers and 6 sets of revenue. So this is how we actually operate and carry more passengers than normally you would find for full-service carriers. This graph is interesting. It's our milestone, basically. That's my boss, Tony Fernandez, flying through all the challenges, basically. So what it actually says here, the top part are all those milestones that we have actually achieved since we started as a low-cost carrier. And the red part, the red boxes that you see below, are all the challenges that we face. We face tsunami, SARS, Bali bombing, political unrest in Thailand, credit crisis, high oil prices. I mean, these are the challenges we face, but we always find a way to maneuver them. We always find a way to change these challenges into opportunities, and we keep growing from there. So you see our business model is actually proven, and it's resilient. How do we do it? The key is to keep things simple. Everything has to be simple. We only have one single class. My boss say it's all first class for AirAsia. All 180 seats in A320 are all first class. We operate point to point. We have only one type of aircraft, really, which we use A320. For AirAsia X, they use A330s. And why do we only have one type of aircraft? Because really, we'll be able to buy in bulk, we'll be able to have more bargaining power, and we're able to negotiate better with the aircraft manufacturer like Airbus. We're able to negotiate better with engine providers and also the maintenance service providers. We're able to lock up 20-year program for all 475 aircraft that we have in order, and they give us better rates. We're able to manage the operations better by having one type of aircraft. Really, we have only better, in terms of cheaper training for just one type of pilot training, one type of cabin crew training, engineering training. Also, we're better to manage our inventory management in terms of spares. So really, this is the reason why we have one type of aircraft, really. So it's just easier and simpler for us to handle. We aim for 25 minutes turnaround, as mentioned, and also how we actually utilize our aircraft to the maximum possible. So last year itself, we reached about, I think, 13 hours per aircraft per day. This year, we aim to have 13.5 hours a day. I mean, ideally, we like 14 hours per day, but of course, there's always limitations and restrictions depending on the slots available that we have to find a way to make it better, basically. And I think what's really important also that we don't have any unions. We make it a point not to have unions. I don't have an office. My boss, Tony Fernandez, doesn't have an office. The only room available are just meeting rooms. So we mingle with each other, with the staff, and the staff can easily speak to us. They come to our desk. They talk about their problems, basically. So we feel people are important. We need them to understand the business. We need them to be able to relate to the business, and we need them to be able to understand what are their main tasks and for them to be able to achieve the goals that we have set for them and for the company, basically. Our business model is also an advantage because the group structure actually creates synergy. It also encouraged us achieve certain economies of scale, of which that we be able to drive the unit costs further. So basically, we have joint procurement in terms of Airbus purchases, in terms of fuel procurement. We have key functions where we regionalize, like route revenue or shared services in terms of daily operational activities or so. So by having a certain amount of volume, we're actually be able to create a better economies of scale and drive the unit cost further, which is something that is very difficult for other airlines in the region to try and compete with us, basically. So that's the key area here, really, to keep everything simple and to leverage across all the entities that we have created within the group. Cost is key. We watch our costs like a hawk. We're very disciplined with it. It's part of our KPI as well to maintain a certain cost. And this is really the whole reason why we're able to survive many challenges that has been thrown at us, basically. So we have the lowest costs globally, and we aim to ensure that we maintain and protect that position. AirAsia is a digital airline with strong online presence. 73% of our sales are through our website, airasia.com, and that is an asset by itself because we have over 168 million average views per month. We have over 27 million viewers, actually, 27 million visitors per month. And out of that, 10 million of them are actually unique visitors. And we have a huge following in Facebook and social media. And this actually gives us a better way of marketing ourselves, promoting ourselves, because we find that digital marketing is far more efficient than traditional marketing using prints or billboards, basically. Because when you do this in social media, you get interaction faster, and the length of the promotion, the period is longer than, the impact is longer than what you usually find in normal traditional way of marketing. Technology and innovation is very important for us because this is a way for us to continually be ahead of the game in the industry. So we use technology not only just to improve processes, to facilitate the kind of volume of transaction that we have. We use technology also to capture bigger, larger of revenue in terms of getting faster accessibility to markets than a normal way of doing things, basically. We use technology also to improve the passenger experience so that it's always a pleasant one for our passengers, such as when we introduce home bag tag and self-bag drop in Malaysia. Apparently, it's the first in Malaysia that we have actually introduced. Having a diversified markets helps, because then we'll be able to assist each other whenever there's a market that's actually not doing too well. By having a group structure, we're able to leverage on each other's strengths and be able to find a way to improve the situation. For instance, Malaysia last year with a depreciating ringgit, I mean, it's still depreciating right now, we'll be able to actually market more in harder currencies within our network, like Australia, China, Japan, Korea or so, in order to get more harder currency into the market rather than just focusing on building the ringgit-based revenue, basically. So if you see in each countries where we operate, we're actually, we have a good gain of market share there. For instance, in Malaysia, we're #1 for both international and domestic market. In Thailand, we're #1 for domestic market at 30% market share, and #2 for international market in Thailand. For Indonesia, we're #1 for international market share, but we only have about 4% of domestic market share. And that's really by design, because we feel that by having more international routes in Indonesia, we'll be able to get better yields and just focus on domestic market where there's intense competition. Our staff is our greatest asset, and we can't achieve all the successes or go through all the challenges without their dedication and determination. Culture is very important to us, and cultivating the right kind of culture, because we have so many operations in various bases. Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, India, Malaysia. It's very important for them to understand what AirAsia culture is all about, and there's only one goal that they need to achieve. So we invest a lot in making sure we have the right culture for AirAsia. We, in fact, have our own department that's called the culture team, where they're focused in making sure that everybody is aligned. And while they work hard towards achieving a goal, they also have fun in doing so, basically. So we have over 17,000 staff, which we call them all-stars. And they all have equal opportunity. There's no union involved. Promotion is based on how they produce and deliver their work. It's all results-based, basically. We also promote women, basically, in the company. When we first started as an airline, there wasn't any female pilots in Malaysia. So we established a cadet program, not only to facilitate the growth that we see with the number of aircraft orders that we have up to 2028, but also to encourage more women to be part of this cadet pilot program. So right now, about 7% of the pilots are female. It's still a small portion, but we hope to grow that further. And about 10% of engineers are also female. So we encourage women to actually look into improving themselves and making sure that they do more technical work in the industry, basically, rather than just becoming flight attendant. As I mentioned, our people is our greatest asset. We encourage them to reinvent themselves. We have staff who started off as a baggage handler, and they become pilots. And because we feel they're smart and they're able to do so, it's just that they never got the opportunity to further their studies because they come from a poor family and they're probably eldest in the family and they need to work and not further their education in order to support their family. So we see a lot of this in our company, and we encourage them to reinvent themselves. For instance, also Hari Krishna from Malaysia. He was a call center operator whose dream was to become a pilot, and we made that happen for him. We have someone from Indonesia who's also from call center. He became a sales manager as well. And a most interesting story would be a flight attendant from Thailand, Chanapon, who wanted to be a pilot. And we encouraged her to be a pilot. And in that process, she wanted to enter a beauty contest, and she won Miss Universe. So you see, it's not very often you have a Miss Universe flying as a pilot in your airline, so I think we're one of those, basically. So 2016, I'm very excited about it. There's a lot of room for growth. It's a good start. Forward bookings are fantastic. I just received the latest stat from my commercial team, and they said that into March, we're looking at just over 70% of forward bookings already. Chinese passengers, despite what you hear in the financial markets, they're strong. Bookings have grown. Year on year, last year, Chinese passengers grew to 20%. And year on year, this quarter, we're looking at more than 15% of Chinese passengers growth. So yes, they're still coming, they're still spending, and they love to fly in Southeast Asia to explore, basically. So no, we don't see any negative impact from our Chinese consumers, basically. And the average fares that you see is trending up higher. We see more rational in terms of pricing in the industry. Malaysia Airlines has become more rational. They have reduced capacity. They have terminated certain routes and reduced their frequency, and therefore you don't see fare dumpings, and that has helped the industry a lot. So we're off to a good start, and we're very excited about this. And this is really my last slide for this presentation. What we're trying to say here, we're here for the long term. There's a lot of room for growth, especially in Asia. If you compare to other regions in the world, like Europe or in America, Asia-Pacific's population is 4 times more. And the number of aircraft available is a lot less than what you see in Europe and also in America. In Asia as well, you have the highest GDP growth globally. ASEAN especially has got one of the highest growth in middle income. ASEAN is perfect for LCC carrier to grow because of its population base. ASEAN population base is 600 million. If you combine that with India and China, that's about 3 billion. The median age of ASEAN is about 27 to 28 years. Land transportation in ASEAN isn't as good, as sophisticated as what you see in America or Europe. The air travel penetration in ASEAN is still very low, about 20%, unlike in US or in Europe, where 60% of its population use air travel as a mode of transportation. And the beauty of ASEAN is geographically it's surrounded by water, so you need air travel to connect internationally. And what we look forward to is ASEAN Open Skies, and we hope when that happens, hopefully by this year, when Laos, Philippines, and also Indonesia fully ratify it, then we'll be able to fly everywhere and have greater access to markets without limitation and restrictions. So therefore, AirAsia is here to stay. Thank you.